Greetings, my friends. Welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George, and once again joined by a special guest, my dad, Phil, for another interesting idea. This time discussing one of our favourite subjects, album covers. So we've each selected two album covers that we think are great album covers. Not necessarily our favourite albums, we're going with great covers. And then we've also selected two album covers that we think are just inexcusably bad, and for a variety of reasons are wrong on so many levels. So to kick off, Dad, you want to take it away with your first two albums covers that you think are really good?
Okay, thank you. Now, the first one, I'm going to go all the way back to 1970. This is an album that I've only recently acquired, but it's such a good sleeve. It is the 1970 released eponymous album from Lucifer's Friend. Sorry about the glare there, but that is a little bit unfortunate because it's one of these kind of digipack type things. Now, this album, as I say, 1970, this cover is insanely creepy. It's two kind of, I suppose, wretches kind of just wandering about. The little guy's got a little hook for a hand there. I don't know if you can quite see that. And the big guy's sort of got a fag on, looks a bit menacing and stuff like that. But it's the whole kind of feel of it is just too weird. And interestingly enough, Lucifer's Friend are actually a German band, but fronted by an English guy, John Lawton, the late, great John Lawton, who older listeners will remember. Did a stint with Uriah Heep in the late 70s. But
oh, wow.
He did a 3-album stint, and they're fine albums as well. I don't think it's commercially very successful, but they were great albums. And he had a phenomenal voice, this guy. He was from up north somewhere, but he ended up in Germany, and he kind of stayed with Lucifer's Friend. Then he rejoined actually after he quit Heap. But this album is I mean, I know we weren't going to sort of dwell too much on content, but it is amazing. It's a great album. It's heavy, sort of doomy. It was on Vertigo Records, and it just was. I think it's probably a little bit ahead of its time. It was certainly up there with Sabbath first album, first couple of Budgie albums, and
really?
one or two others, particularly an American band called Pentagram, who were very much in that same British mode as well. But the cover, I just what I like about it is the fact that I can imagine that these two characters, I mean, just shuffling about Hamburg in 1970. When I mean, Hamburg, trust me, is a shabby town these days.
Oh, really?
I dread to think what it was like in the decades after, in terms of being a tip. You know, it is a horrible place now, but and I just like the idea that these two very odd characters are just standing there, and this guy just happened to photograph them and then embellish it with a little bit of it's kind of sort of what's presumably supposed to be blood on the floor there, and graffiti there with the name of the band Graffiti in there with a sort of a little peace sign on a drawn hand. The whole thing is just terrific, and it's dark, and it's one of those ones that you see the cover and you couldn't resist listening to it. You'd have to check the album out just because of the cover. It's so mental.
So I do want to check that out. Actually, now you're saying
you should. I mean, it's a good, you know, it's I won't say it's as doomy as Sabbath, but it's very heavy. It's not krautrock, even though a German band. It tinged with a little bit. There's a lot of keys on there, but it's well worth listening to, and you can't ignore a cover like that. I'm sorry, but if you know, and as we know, and I was going to say this, you know, the rock genre across the various formats, you know, be it prog or heavy rock or hard rock, heavy metal, whatever you want to call it. The album cover is so important. It's far more integral to the whole listening experience than it is perhaps if you were a soul and R&B fan or a reggae fan, or whatever you happen to be.
It's part of the package. It's all
yeah,
part of the
of course
package.
it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. You know, and you think of I obviously go back to the stuff in the 70s, which it was absolutely crucial. Artwork was crucial. It was all vinyl then as well, so everything was much bigger physically.
Yeah.
And all the Roger Dean and all the rest of the bits and pieces there. It just really spoke to you. So it's so important. It's not just a little add-on. It's absolutely part of the package. Yeah. But that is a great one. And as I did say, I wasn't going to bang on about the content too much, but anybody looking for something different, check this out because it is a stormer. Okay.
Nice.
So we've done Lucifer's Friend. Right. The next one is we're going to come forward 4 years in time to 1974. This was released again, actually, on Vertigo Records. And I've got a vinyl copy of this. It is the first album from the Baker Gurvitz Army. 1974, Ginger Baker, ex-Cream, ex-Blind Faith, teams up with a couple of brothers, Adrian and Paul Gurvitz, guitar and bass respectively, and fantastic band, a proper power trio from the mid-70s. Absolutely, rocking album, really good stuff. I mean, proper, and because Ginger Baker's involved, it's a bit crazy because he was a bit crazy. He's no longer with us, I'm sorry to say, but he was, I don't think he was a particularly regular guy, should we say. And he was obviously the kind of leader of this band. And it was damn fine. But what I was going to say about it and what appealed to me about it was that I think despite the fact it came out in 74, it just screams Nawabum to me.
It does.
This could have been a cover of a Grim Reaper album or something like that, couldn't it? A few years later, this could have easily been a Music for Nations band cover. It's all there. The drama, the kind of the apocalyptic thing. You can see the kind of cities on flame stuff in the back there and all that kind of stuff. And I particularly like the fact that it's got the three guys in the band, Ginger, and then you've got Adrian Gurvitz and Paul Gurvitz. But obviously it's a nod to the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. As a three-piece band, it's a power trio. So you've got the fourth guy here is sort of slightly behind everybody else, but you can't see his face. So he's just like put there because he is the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
But this is just imagine them saying, well, yeah, but there's only three of us. Yeah, I know, that's not the point. We can have it's a picture. We want, it's a great cover, a really good cover. I bought this a couple of years ago for nothing really, and it's just it's a great album. Again, not wanting to bang on about the content too much, but you should check it out if anybody out there really just fancies it. It's kind of I don't like this expression very much, but I'm going to say proto metal. The sort of music that was heavy enough to appeal to those probably schoolboys who 5 or 6 years later would have been Maiden and Saxon and etc. etc. And they would have. That's one of the bands that they would have, without a doubt, been listening to because it's got that feel to it, and with a cover like that,
catches your eye.
It does catch your eye. It's fantastic. Oh, I love it so much. That's it. Baker Gurvitz Army and Lucifer's Friend for me on the good album cover.
Good albums.
Good front cover. Yeah.
Good artwork. Certainly never heard of it, but the artwork that is great. That's killer.
It is great.
But as for Lucifer's Friend, that is so creepy. That is so weird.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah, I must admit, I can't tell you, that is such a winner for me. And as I said earlier, if you don't want to go and listen to that album after seeing that, then frankly, really, you're watching the wrong show, aren't you?
Okay, right. So I've actually gone all heritage bands with my choices today, and that was inadvertent. One of them I had to pick before you picked it, basically.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do tell. Ah, yes, of course. Yes.
Magnum, the mighty Magnum. Absolutely love these guys. What would you call them? Progressive rock, hard rock.
Yeah, progressive hard rock is fair enough.
Yeah,
I'm happy with that. Actually,
firmly in that category.
they're not a
This
metal
album,
band. They're not. They were often thrown in with it, but they weren't. They're not really a
no,
metal.
no, no. I've seen so many lineups where, or your festival lineups, Monsters of Rock, Donington,
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
where you've got Magnum on there. But I've
Oh
also
yeah.
seen them crop up frequently with the likes of Saxon and
Yeah. Yeah.
things.
I mean, they're part of the furniture.
Yeah,
Absolutely, and rightly so as well.
definitely a heritage act. But this album cover, this is
Mm,
1985's Storyteller's Night.
mm,
Absolutely love this album. It's one of my favorite Magnum albums. Such the strength
mm,
of the material.
mm,
Obviously,
mm.
won't go into too much detail on that, but that cover is so mesmerizing. Of
Yeah.
course, it's Rodney Matthews artwork there.
Mm.
Wherever that is, I just want to be there.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so.
I agree. It's a stellar one. I know it's one we've both always loved.
Well, we've
Uh,
got history with it
we
because
have
obviously, long before I knew anything about music at all, of course, you had a puzzle
the jigsaw
with that
puzzle.
on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
had a
Yeah. I do. I
artwork.
wish. I wish I still had it. I don't know. I've no idea what happened to it, but
No idea.
it was a terrific thing to have, and
Yeah,
not a particularly easy puzzle. I can tell you.
no, no. Well, when you look at the color scheme there, you've got a lot of there's orange and
Yeah, there's going to be a
brown.
lot there. There's going to be a lot of that. Yeah, but it
Yeah,
is great, and I wouldn't disagree with any of that. I mean, not only is it one of, if not one of the, certainly in the sort of fantasy sort of art, as in drawing, painting world, one of the best covers ever. It's also their best album, and it's one of the best albums. It would definitely be,
yeah.
well, it would be a top 20 album for me. And bearing in mind there are a lot of albums, it would be a top
Oh
20.
god, yeah.
I couldn't go to a desert island without a copy of that. No, absolutely not.
It's an absolute masterpiece.
Phenomenal.
Absolutely love it, and that I love my fantasy and
Mm,
Middle Earth stuff.
mm.
All the
It's
good.
interesting as well because it's one of those ones that you keep looking at, and then you suddenly spot
Yeah,
another little dog in the corner and stuff like that.
yeah,
Don't you? The little dog hiding there. I love that.
yeah. The little creature behind
Yeah, yeah, there is a dog in there though, isn't there? I think there
There
is.
is
I
a
haven't got
dog.
a copy
Yeah,
to hand, but I think there's a
yeah.
dog there, and there's a yeah. I mean, it's just what
Little
a
goblins, and what I
what
do
a
like about it is, as you say, it's one of those ones where you keep looking at it, and the more you notice. But
mm,
of
mm.
course, you've got the artworks of Chase the Dragon and the 11th Hour
That's right. Of course you have. Yeah,
on
that's
the
it.
wall. We
You
probably
have on the
can't
wall.
see
Yeah,
those.
yeah. You can't quite
Yeah,
pick it out, but of course it is. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's all
So
kind of
there's
messed up there, but nah, it's
there's
just
so much going on.
that's too good. That's too good. That is.
Absolutely love that one.
And again, what we were saying earlier, touched on earlier, you're talking about how integral the artwork is to the music.
Yeah,
Because in your mind's eye, you're sitting in your chair, you've got that pumping out, and you've got your pint on the go, and
yeah.
you're that's it. That's what you're seeing on that cover. That's all part of what you're hearing.
That's where you are. That's where
That's where
you
you
are
are.
going.
That's where you are.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's just one of the greatest album covers of all time, in my opinion. It's absolutely fantastic. And
Absolutely. Too right.
I would love to have that as a large print. I have actually looked in the past to
Yeah,
try.
I've tried to find one. I've tried. I had the idea of trying to get hold of a copy, but I don't know.
Yeah.
How
I
easy.
mean,
You know.
you can get them. Rodney Matthews
Yeah,
large
you can.
prints.
That's right. Yeah, you can.
You'll pay through the nose for it. That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
Really, I should just get it on vinyl, and then I've got a bigger.
Then you got something in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, Magnum, the mighty Magnum, absolutely love these guys, and on a storyteller's night, just such a fantastic, mesmerizing bit of artwork.
It is.
Absolutely love that. So keeping with the theme of fires and bit of mysticism, we're going with another one of my personal all-time favorite album covers, and certainly my favorite album from this band, with a very bright and colourful Mercyful Fate, Don't Break the Code.
Yeah.
I was almost concerned that you might have picked this before I got to it. Because
Do you
we
know what? I hadn't actually thought come into my mind that one actually, which
because
is
we
a ridiculous because it is a great cover. It's a fantastic cover.
are. I've got
Yeah,
that on a shirt. I've got a
yeah.
great big poster of it. I just think that's absolutely fantastic.
Well,
Don't Break the Oath, released in 1984, an absolute stunner of an album, and that artwork. If you had never heard Merciful Fate, never heard the name, if you'd never even
mm,
been into metal, anything, just on the strength of that album cover alone, you'd want to give the album a go, wouldn't you?
oh yeah, yeah,
You'd want to give
absolutely.
it a chance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're snared. There's no two
Yeah,
ways. It's great. It's great. And it actually,
absolutely.
like the flames are amazing. You actually feel quite warm, you know. Sort
You do, yeah. What I particularly like about it is obviously, it's a sheet of flames,
Mm,
but it's going against the convention of just having, it's heavy music and also it's dark. Merciful Fate, the King, the legendary
mm,
King
mm,
Diamond. It's
mm.
all very satanic. It's all very dark, evil. You tend to
Yeah,
get a lot of correspondingly black or dark coloured album sleeves and covers. Certainly, you think of Merciful Fate with the EP was sort of a black and white almost drawing,
yeah.
and then you had Melissa with that sort of demonic creature, I suppose, but it's sort of
Mm,
black, grey, purple, I think. It's all darker colours. That is bright and
yeah,
bold and it's in your face. And it's so ominously evil because you think, well, what is this creature?
yeah.
What are they pointing at you? Is the finger pointing at
Exactly.
you?
That's it, isn't it? Yeah, you're next. Yeah,
Yes, exactly. And it fits the music so perfectly
it
as
does.
well.
Yeah,
And,
it's a
and we're
great
saying,
album. It's a fantastic album. Absolutely.
yeah,
I'm never sure.
fantastic.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure if I don't prefer Melissa. Maybe I'm stepping out of line with everybody else, but it's not much in it. There's a fact
No,
paper
no,
in it but I think on balance, having listened
they're
to the
neck and
two
neck.
albums back to back several times recently, I'm thinking, well, do you know what? Because that is a great album. There's no two ways about it. Melissa, great album. So it hasn't got the cover. Yeah, the
It's
cover's
still,
fine,
it's still a good
but it's
cover,
not as
yeah.
good as that. It's nowhere near as good as that because again, very few albums are.
Well,
You know.
exactly. And I think it's difficult because when you've got two albums, certainly two albums back to back like that, so they're
Mm,
of similar quality,
mm,
production wise
mm.
and sound wise, period of the band, they're of that much consistency. It's very difficult to pick between the two because sometimes it depends if I listen to one more than the other. But I might say that I prefer Melissa, but
Mm.
then I might say, well, actually,
Yeah,
you
I
know
know.
what?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of opinion. Does it really matter?
No, it
Not
doesn't.
really, does it? To be honest with you, they're both great albums, so no big
Yep.
deal. And Merciful Fate are one of those bands that they're not for everybody,
No,
even sort of like metal fans, because it's the guy's voice.
the
Now,
King.
some people
Yeah.
can't deal with that kind of sort of
Hmm.
change of register. I mean, personally, I think it works a treat. I really do. I just think it's
Yeah.
like he's different.
You do hear there's sort of Judas Priest
Oh, I think
isms.
there's quite a big Judas Priest influence in the band. Full stop. I mean, the guitar duo,
Yeah. Dual
um,
guitar
well, certainly
harmonies.
at
Yeah.
that time, anyway. I think they were borrowing a lot of tips, should we say,
Yeah.
from Priest at
Yeah.
that time. Nothing wrong with that. You got
No.
that. It could be worse, couldn't it? But I do think that was a big influence on them. Judas
Yeah.
Priest a big influence on them. And those two albums, phenomenal. What a cover! What a cover!
Yeah. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. It perfectly reflects the music. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's my two
Nice, nice.
favourites.
Yeah.
So, what you got in terms of least favourites? We've done our
Well,
favourites. We've done
yeah.
our
I
favourite
mean,
ones.
I'm going to say. I'm not going to say. No, maybe I am going to say least favourite actually because these I've got a couple of choices here. Both these bands are, bands that I really love these bands. No problem about that. And now the first one is the seventh, only the seventh studio album from this band, 1976, bearing in mind they've been around for a very long time. I'm talking about one of the absolute biggest rock bands of all time. I'm talking about The Who. And I'm talking about specifically, in fact, let me just take this out of the case because the glare. Who are you? Oh dear me. I'll tell you who you are, lads. You are a band that can't pick a good album cover. Or at least you've forgotten how to pick a good album cover. Because the really annoying thing about The Who is that they had some fantastic ones, legendary. Who's Next,
Yeah.
Quadrophenia, Tommy, iconic album sleeves. Absolutely. I mean, especially Who's Next. I mean, with the concrete monolith all taking the league up against it and stuff. I mean, just genius, putting that together. Then they came up with this in 1976. You've got the guys in the band standing around all this PA equipment. Who famously very loud band, looks to me like it's outdoors. Maybe they were playing a stadium or something like that. But who thought that was a good idea? The Who thought that was a good idea, should we say? Right. But you know what I mean? It's like, okay, so we'll all sit around, Roger Daltrey looking very athletic, Pete Townsend trying to look a little bit punk because it's like 1976. He's got his DMs on, and Keith Moon's dressed in his hunting outfit. It's awful. It's absolutely dire.
That is terrible.
Anything would have been better than this. Just a plain brown envelope would have been better than this. Because frankly, you have this is what I mean. I often think, now I know that artists see things very differently. They see things from a different end of the telescope, if you like, because they're in the studio, they make the albums, they write the songs, they work on it for weeks and months on end, and then it all gets done, and then it's all in the hands of the record company and all this sort of stuff. Then they'll get presented with this at the end of it. Whereas we as the fans, we would go out, and I bought this on vinyl decades ago, and I'll go and buy it, and I'll look at it, and I'm thinking, I mean, it's a good album. Don't get me wrong, it's a good album. It's the last decent album they made before Keith Moon died shortly after this anyway, but they never made a decent album after that anyway. But this is a good album. It's a good rocking album. Who Are You is an absolute classic track. What can you say? But I just get, it disappoints me that more effort wasn't put in to coming up with something better than that. It's called Who Are You? Another little play on words there. Fine, that's great. So you got something there, but no, rubbish is what comes to mind. Lazy nonsense, stripped back. I don't know whether it's got something to do with the fact that it was 76 and punk was just about being born, and a lot of this album is all about that. There's the music must change. There's new song on there. There's sister disco. So it's all about, look, okay, the Pistols and the Clash have arrived now. Nobody needs the Who and the Stones anymore. So maybe it's because they're trying to be a bit stripped down, so, right, okay, look, this is it. This is us. Although forgetting the fact that Keith Moon's dressed in his hunting outfit, sitting on a director's chair on top of a PA. No, not good at all. Sorry, no points. Nil point, as I used to say on the Eurovision Song Contest. I can't tell you how much I hate that.
Yeah, that is bad.
But that is just.
It would be interesting to know, like, if you could get an archive of all of the album covers. Did you say that was 76?
Yeah.
76. So if you could get an archive of all the album covers from 75, 76, I wonder how many album covers were quite similar, the same sort of format as that. Where you've got the band,
yeah,
sort of stripped back.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was the product of a bit of a trend.
It's a very good point, actually. It's a very good point. I hadn't really thought about it like that, actually, but I will give that some thought, actually, because
you tend to find, like, you get. Metal,
I know what you mean.
Example, something like that. If you could get all those album covers from '84, I can certainly think of a lot from '83 that were very much, there's a creature on it. There's some sort of figure.
Well,
There's
fire is always going to be a good one, isn't it? As well,
bright colours.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah, it's
know,
a very good point. Actually, that is a good point, and I will look into that because I think you might want to be onto something there. I'll certainly investigate that, and then when we revisit this, because as we know, there is no shortage of bad ones. There's a lot of really good ones as well. I mean, you could go on and on about it, but the bad ones are the ones that kind of are more fun in a way to talk about, aren't they? Right, we're going to go to 82, I think, 82 or 83. I can't quite remember now. A band that's very dear to my heart, been with me very many years. And I remember this coming out. Actually, I was 18 years old when this came out. It was the third album of a sort of a revamped lineup for a very well-established band. And I'm talking about UFO, and I'm talking about Mechanics. He says with a very heavy heart. Yes, exactly. And I honestly, do you know what? From day one when I saw this, and I remember there's an advert that came out in at the time in one of the magazines or papers, Kerrang or whatever it was, and the tagline was "Mechanics will tighten your nuts," which even at the time, even when I was 18 years old, I sort of like thought, oh dear, please, that's just. But sorry, I shouldn't swear. Anyway, now let's put a little bit of context here. Like I say, a much loved band for me, very much loved band for me. But they never, and even they've been going since 1969. They've been around forever, so they were well into their recording career. They'd done loads and loads of albums for Chrysalis Records. They were on a major label, but they hadn't got a particularly good track record with album covers. If you look at their album covers, there's some poor to terrible ones in there. Even the Mighty Strangers in the Night, the live album, if you like, one of everybody's favourite live albums. Mm-hmm. Even the cover to that is a bit rubbish, really, to be honest. Little dots.
Yeah.
So I don't particularly like it. I just don't like it. But this is a great album. It's a really good album. It's a strong album, apart from the fact, so I'm combining various things that I hate about the stuff here. So it's also got a cover version of an Eddie Cochran song called Something Else, which is totally ludicrously inappropriate cover version to have on an album. And it's the second track on the album.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the second track.
Why are you doing this? I noticed they stuck it on a B-side of a single. They released Back Into My Life as a single, and they stuck that on the B-side of the single. Well, that's fine, no problem. Yeah, go for it, do that by all means, but don't put it on the album.
Yeah, but leave it there. Leave it on.
I mean, I've got a problem with cover versions anyway, as you know, and I can't bear it. But but putting that to one side, this is a really good album. It's a strong album. It's a heavy album. It's the one prior to this was The Wild, the Willing, and the Innocent, which is better than this, which means it's pretty damn good. That's actually one of my perfect albums. There's nothing wrong with that at all. This is great. There's the closing two tracks on this is Dreaming and Feel It. Absolutely unbelievable, storming stuff.
Yeah.
Paul Chapman, who took over from Michael Schenker in 1980 or whatever it was a phenomenal guitar player. It's just because he had some very big boots to fill when he joined after Michael left. But like I say, not going to go on about the content. I'm just talking about the right now. Let's actually look at this, shall we? Mm-hmm. Now, it's problems all over the place here. First of all, we've got a gauntlet clutching a guitar neck, which when it comes out of the glove on the other side is a spanner, an big open-headed spanner. Mm-hmm. That's rubbish. Mm-hmm. It's called Mechanics, spelt with an X. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? What does that mean? What's that all about? That's spelling things wrong or coming up with some sort of alternative spelling that you've made up is a trick that the mighty Slade used to use all the time in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the titles of their singles, everything was always spelt wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it was Come On Feel the Noise, had a Z in it, and Squeeze Me, Please Me was spelled SKW, you know, all that sort of nonsense. That's not funny. It's not funny. It's not good, is it? Rubbish, right? So you've got the fantastic UFO logo at the top. And I do love that. That is a great, brilliant logo. But there it is. It's red, and it's one of the. And there's even right. This is so bad. This cover that even the background is some sort of cream-coloured nonsense. What's that all about?
Peachy cream. Oh, it's awful. The colour is horrible. It looks dirty.
It does.
It looks a little like
I have no idea what was going on. And when I spoke a moment ago about the Who, you know, I know bands see things differently, and for all those reasons I said, but surely there was a meeting somewhere at Chrysalis Records. That album was done. They must have been in a meeting, and they must have said, you know, the management might have been there, the record company were there, the band. They must have sat around and they said, right, okay, well, there's the album. Yeah, well done, lads. It's a great album. We really like that. And they got a track on there called Let It Rain as well, which is a kind of minor hit. It's scraped the top 40. Great song, brilliant, hook-laden rock radio classic. Absolutely.
Great track.
So we've got the album. We're really pleased with that. Well done, fellas. You really done us proud here. Right, what we need now is a name for it and an album cover. So we'll call it Mechanics, spelled with an X, which isn't a track or anything like that. It's just a random word.
Yeah, where does that even come from?
Exactly. It's nothing to do with it. It's not like Lights Out or, you know, whatever, you know, something where it's there's a title track, so to speak. You don't have to have a title track, but, you know, they had done it before. And then we'll come up with the album cover. Right, okay, what should we have? Come on, we've got a blank canvas here. We can have whatever we want. Right, let's have a drawing of a gauntlet with a guitar neck that turns into a spanner and a filthy yellow background, a creamy sort of whatever it is coloured background. Yeah, that'll do. That's brilliant. Whoever did this and whoever was responsible for this should be basically put on show trial on TV. It should be televised, and they should be made to explain their actions, because this is unforgivable nonsense, isn't it? This isn't a band that had a particularly good track record either of artwork. Don't forget, they thought it was a good idea 2 albums before this, when they came up with No Place to Run. They thought it was a good idea to have a photograph of the band all standing in a petrol station at midnight. Please don't have photographs of bands standing. Here we are. There is the offending item. That is not a good album cover either. That's very close to being on this program.
That's pretty terrible, isn't it?
It's terrible. Why? What the hell is that all about? So you can see that they've got a bit of.
That would have been worse as an album cover. I'm glad they didn't pick that. Standing in the middle of a golf course.
Absolute love for this band. I mean, they are a top 10 band for me, no problem at all. But high top 10, actually. I can't forgive whoever made that decision. And like I say, I want retribution for that, because I've had to look at that album cover for all those years, and it's ruined my enjoyment of the album.
It's interesting because I was just thinking, 1982. You're right. This was released in 1982.
Yeah.
Obviously, and actually, you've got a few tracks on here that they're leaning heavily towards the Nuobum sort of heaviness.
Oh, they were definitely. They were dabbling with it.
Definitely. Certainly, when you compare like this to, I don't know, something from way earlier on in the catalogue.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, without doubt. Yeah, I mean,
miles heavier.
Absolutely. But yeah.
1982. I wonder, just a theory, but I wonder if this whole aesthetic of the Mechanics is very masculine. It's very sort of male. you've got mechanics, the whole guitar neck thing, the grip. I wonder if it's trying to kind of encroach a little bit on the metal territory.
Well, without a doubt. Oh, without a doubt. I mean, there's
Just trying
yeah,
to catch
absolutely.
the eye.
I think that's what was behind it all.
Yeah.
But you don't need to go. There's nothing wrong with that, because they were one of those bands. There was a bunch of them really that kind of got a bit of a second wind when the Wobbum came along.
Priest.
Priest, UFO, Sabbath, Thin Lizzy, even Nazareth to some extent. So all those bands had a sort of a second bite of the cherry, because they probably would have, had there not been a resurgence of interest, they would have probably, I wouldn't say disappeared, but they wouldn't have had that stepping stone.
Yeah.
And they, like you said, I mean, they definitely did heavy up their sound. I mean, they were always a heavy band. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They've only got to listen to the live album, and that is a rocker.
Yeah.
But this was more. You felt that kind of riff-driven stuff was there, particularly "Feel It" and "Dream" and tracks like that. I mean, they were heavying up their acts, and they looked the part, and they were, they were in the right place for that, to take advantage of that. I think you're right. But even if you allow for the fact that they wanted to have an album cover that was a little bit more Wobbum, that is not good enough. Sorry, no way. Because okay, let's look at. Well, I'll tell you what. If you think about "Wheels of Steel" as an album cover, now how metal is that? Album cover?
Absolutely, so metal it hurts.
It's all there. There's a metallic eagle. There's a wheel. There's the fantastic logo. There it all is. Look, I mean, if that doesn't say heavy metal,
that's
metal. I don't know what it does. So maybe you're right. I mean, I'm not saying that it's silly, but I get what you mean. Is that kind of actual metal as a material involved? So therefore, you're
physically,
So then maybe you're right. Maybe that is what they were thinking, or the record company thinking, or whatever. But they could have done so much better. Anybody could have done that. A child could have done. A small child that isn't even very good at designing anything. The sort of kid who can't actually do anything very well at all could have come up with a better sleeve than that.
It's just that was a really poor DT project, design.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The sort of thing that if a child had done that in class as a project, he would have been suspended from school for a month and told to go away and to clean his act up a little bit.
Think about what you've done.
Start thinking very long and hard about exactly what you think you're doing.
What do you have to contribute to society?
Yeah, and that's the best you can do, is it? Right. Okay, well, thanks very much. Go away.
Well, there's some fine choices for
Thank you.
less favourite artwork. Definitely, that's crap. That's a crap cover. I completely agree. So, as I mentioned, going on to my choices, I've inadvertently stuck with Heritage Acts on this one, and this one, the first choice, is quite an interesting one, because other than this album cover, I don't think that they have a bad album cover. I think that they've uniformly stuck to the same formula throughout their entire vast discography as well, of including their mascot, their symbol. But with this album, they decided to dispense with that altogether. Although they've got their logo, there is no resemblance to any of their other material, and that is absolutely awful. That is what there's so many reasons why that's bad. Firstly, it's not a good photograph.
No.
It's terrible. Secondly, even if I don't even know if it's actually meant to be a photograph. It's so grainy.
I'm never sure whether it's a photograph or drawing,
or drawing, or painting or something. But I think that it's a really crap, blurry photograph. That's what I think it is. It's just their heads, so it doesn't even look like it looks disembodied. I don't know what's going on. Lemmy almost looks like a sort of a wax figure head. Is absolutely awful. And you think about the fact that you've got Overkill and Rock and Roll, Another Perfect Day, Sacrifice, Hammered, Inferno. Great covers, really great. You've got the War Pig there. It looks the part. It reeks of like aggressive rock and roll, the metal music.
Absolutely.
That could easily be sort of a bit of a bluesy jazz project, couldn't it? That could be
I'll tell you what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
It looks like a cheapo compilation.
Yes.
Like an unofficial
100%.
compilation album that somebody's
100%.
bunged out, put together in Spain. They bunged it out. And they probably got you can imagine it would a compilation that would have a load of like really early tracks that never made it onto any albums, or some random live bits. So not even a proper licensed compilation.
Yeah.
The first and main thing that jumps out at me when I look at that album cover is the fact that Lemmy, the main man, what was his trademark look?
Exactly. He hasn't even got the tash.
There's no tash and going up into the sides, and that's what Lemmy was.
Droopy.
That is what Lemmy did. He had sides and a tash, and they didn't bother. This is insane. Sorry, totally insane.
Just awful. Absolutely horrific. I cannot get over that. That is so freaking bad.
It's his hairline as well is weird, isn't it?
This is what I mean. It looks like a wax replica.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, you're right. I see what you mean. Yeah. Sorry.
And I can't get over that. Overnight Sensation from 1996.
96.
I'm not going to say that it's a terrible album because there's some pretty good material on it. I won't go into that, but if I had to rank my Motorhead albums, it wouldn't be very high, to be honest. No. But the strength of that cover alone, that is such a disappointment. And I actually remember when I bought this years ago, I bought it in a two dual case CDs in a card slipcase, SPV or Steamhammer, whatever records, with Snakebite Love, which is also not a good album, but a better cover. And I honestly did think that this was some sort of compilation or something, like you say, it could easily have been like that, because I didn't think that was going to be an out of studio album.
It's simply not good enough, because they had a great run of really good album covers, apart from Ace of Spades, of course, which is not a good album cover.
No, we neglect that.
Not when you think about how good Bomber and Overkill was, and even Iron Fist and Another Perfect Day. Brilliant cover that is.
Fantastic rock and roll, absolutely superb. The color scheme is right, everything is right. Crap, but not nearly as crap as my first choice, which was as soon as we said, should we do favorite and least favorite artworks? As soon as I thought, okay, what's my least favorite artwork, this came to mind pretty much like that. One of my all-time favorite bands, one of the biggest bands in the business, without a doubt, one of the best bands in the business, and also important to remember that their artwork, certainly on their first couple of releases, their seminal early albums, that artwork being so significant, it caught the attention of so many unaware youngsters, teenagers, kids, adolescents, and brought them into the world of new wave British heavy metal. They then come back with this. They reform and they come out with this. I mean, what year was this? Off the top of my head, 2003, right? This is Dance of Death, and this is an inexcusable crime. Eddie is, I don't even know if it's Eddie anymore. It's a Reaper in the middle of what basically looks like a really crap early 2000s 3D sort of clip art project. This is the sort of album cover that would have been made by some specky grotty kid in his bedroom on his massive computer, sitting there, graphic designs, you know, doing that. Who the hell thought that was a good idea? When you look at killers, you look at
Yeah,
power science,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Fear of the
exactly.
Dark,
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
and then that. I mean,
Yeah.
even Brave New World, which is one of my favourite albums of all time, let alone one of my favourite Maiden albums, that has a crap cover. But that is
Yeah, it's not
not
great, is it? It's not as bad as that. No.
no, that is so bad.
And the thing about it is, the thing that when you talk about Maiden, is that Steve Harris and Bruce Dickinson are so switched on as individuals. They're
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
smart at everything they've done. They haven't got where they are because they're a couple of idiots.
The golden touch.
They nothing's ever left a chance with Maiden. That's right, isn't it? I mean, you look at some of that, the way that Bruce Dickinson knows exactly how to press everybody's buttons,
Oh God, yeah.
doesn't he? You know, and
He's the man.
you look back, you know, and you think like you mentioned Power Slave. I mean, in the first two albums, you know, I mean, they're great covers, great
Oh God,
covers.
yeah.
And of
Absolute
course, you've got
classics.
with the logo. I was around when the logo when I first saw the logo. Yeah, you know, and you're right.
Yeah,
You gotta ignore this. This is
so
great.
good, so good that it's actually on bloody stamps now. You know, this artwork
Exactly.
is
Yes.
that good.
But you know, you think, right? Okay, where do we go? You know, we get Killers, then we get Number Beast. Actually, Number the Beast, I thought was a little step down cover wise, but
Yeah,
Peace of Mind is just ridiculously good cover.
perfect.
Power Slave, as you mentioned, but what about my personal favourite,
Ah,
Somewhere in Time?
yeah. Now that
I
is a
mean,
superb album
well, I mean,
cover.
it happens to be one of my favourite albums of theirs, to be honest. But it's just such a good cover, such a good cover. And you think, you know, some real effort went into it, and it's I don't know. And then they
Yeah,
allow them exactly, and
you
then they
go from something
allow
like that.
themselves to be. I don't know what happened there.
But yeah, for a multitude of reasons, that is an absolutely atrocious cover, and I can never understand how or why that happened.
Or
But it's
forgive.
awful.
I
I
can't
can never
forgive.
forgive it. No, absolutely not. So there we have it. That's our full picks. Just to recap very briefly, I picked for favourites and definitely all-time favourite album covers, of course, the absolutely sterling artwork of Magnum on a Storyteller's Night, Rodney Matthews artwork there, and of course the mighty Mercyful Fate with the Don't Break the Oath album from 1984. Least
The
favourites,
accusing pointing finger.
the accusing point, yeah, of which I have, like I say, on a poster and on a shirt. I'll get it tattooed one day. And then, absolutely unforgivably, Dance of Death, Iron Maiden. It's just awful. It's just an awful cover. And the equally as awful Overnight Sensation from the mighty Motorhead. Excellent band.
Both really bad, but like kind of for different reasons.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like so. I think probably with the Maiden, it's probably more like misguided.
Yeah.
You know,
They're trying to keep
they're trying to do something. Yeah, exactly. Whereas that Motorhead, I'll tell you honestly. I mean, again, you know, where was the meeting? You know, what happened in that meeting? You know, were they not there? Because look at the you know, go back to the previous albums. I mean, everything is it's always what it is with Motorhead. Is you get what you know what you're going to get. You get stuff like that. That's what you get. You get big.
That was the previous album.
And then you go and get something like that. That is actually fairly staggering, isn't it? How awful that is. And
that's a year apart.
And particularly when you do a drawing of Lemmy without his trademark sideburns drooping into a tash. I mean, come on. You know.
That in 1995. That in 1996. What the hell happened in 1995? Well, me being born. That's what was so bad that it triggered that event. Clearly,
I must admit, it is fairly breathtaking, isn't it? Bad days.
That contrast. No. So what? just give us a recap. What were your
Oh yes,
favourites?
right. Okay, so on the favourites front, this Lucifer's Friend, eponymous first album with those two extremely creepy characters who I like to think shuffle about Berlin in 1970, not Berlin, Hamburg in 1970. You know, I mean, it's I don't know, is it crazy or what? Whatever it is, it works. It works for me. It certainly catches the eye, and I just absolutely love it.
Certainly
And
does.
then I have the also eponymous first album from the Baker Gurvitz Army. Apologies for the glare there, but there's not much I can do about it. It's lacquered sleeve. But yeah, with the power trio that decided to have the four horses of the apocalypse on the front. So
Yeah.
there's a bit of a problem with the guy on here. Four characters.
Numerically, that's not going to add
Yeah,
up.
exactly. You know, but again, you can imagine that sort of, well, okay, there's three of us. So let's have the four horsemen of the apocalypse. I mean, rock and roll. And it's certainly back in those days. I mean, because basically children in charge of everything. But yeah, a fantastic sleeve. And as we said when we were talking about it, the mere fact that it just reminds me so much of those early MFN and Neat Records, those early Nuoban albums is so like that, you know. Yeah, this is predates it by sort of 5 or 6 years, but great stuff anyway. Yeah. One of the biggest bands has ever been. You know, resources were not going to be a problem. You know, but no, sorry. Photograph of you lot just sitting around on stacks of dismantled PA system and cables and stuff everywhere. Keith Moon dressed like he's going hunting. Well, not like he's going hunting, dressed to go hunting.
Yep.
No, sorry, absolutely not. Never in a million years. And then, as if you just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, Mechanics comes up. UFO, the mighty UFO. Top 10 band for me by a mile. Great album, storming stuff, but just look at that cover. Please, somebody do something about that. Somebody rewrite history, please, because I can't bear it anymore.
Maybe it'll get reissued years down the line with a different cover.
Well,
you never know.
That has happened. Stuff has come out again and been with a completely different cover.
Well,
you know,
talking about Motorhead with Bastards, that came out again with a different name and a different cover. It came out as Death or Glory with a sort of like a backpack on a biker jacket.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think there was one of the Hendrix albums, Are You Experienced? I think it was. That had this kind of really crazy, psychedelic, sort of bad LSD trip type photograph of the boys all like in this pink bubble. And all of a sudden that's gone. And then this much more stripped down album comes out with a different sleeve, just of a photograph of the guys all standing there like this, you know, looking a bit grumpy. So it can be done, but I strongly suspect that after
never happened.
41 years, they are not going to suddenly, you know, come up with a new album cover for that. But you never know.
So I did it with Fighting, then Lizzie.
I don't know whether it was. I think
or just an alternative.
It was that. What that was a different cover for the US release.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why, because you know you have just inadvertently stubbed your toe on another really bad album cover. Actually, haven't you?
Yeah, that's actually terrible. Yeah, totally.
I hadn't even thought about that one. Actually, thinking
to
about it now, maybe I should have that there because that's a bad cover. I tell you what's particularly bad about that cover. I haven't got my CDs upstairs, but what's particularly bad about it is that Phil Lynott is standing there with his kind of chest out and what have you, but he's actually got like a sheriff's badge, like a child's cowboy dressing up sheriff's badge on his shirt there. Now, yeah, okay, fair enough. Maybe he liked sheriff's badges, you know, but
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
that
People
is
do, and
weird.
and that whole kind of scene in the street, obviously
Yeah.
outside the studio or whatever it was. They just stood there and took some photos,
Mm,
and that's a good idea. We'll give. I think somebody's holding a baseball bat, and Brian
yeah,
down is holding a piece of
pipe.
lead pipe. So, like, we don't mess with us because we're going to fight you. Fighting.
No,
Unbelievable.
crap.
Unbelievably bad. But there you go.
Yeah, we'll come back to that one because that's
We'll
going
do
to
that
have.
one. Yeah, we do that
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we will.
We'll attack it. We'll give it a full assault next time.
Ooh.
Well, there we have it. That is a roundup of some of our favourite and some of our least favourite artwork. I'll be very interested to hear thoughts and opinions of anyone else on any of our particular favourites or least favourites, because let's face it, some of these are absolute classics, some of them obscure classics, some of them are unforgivably bad. So, feel free to let us know what you think about that one. Thanks again for
Good
watching.
stuff.
We very much enjoyed it. Do check back soon for more reviews and more ramblings about all of the good stuff. But it's a good night from me.
And it's good night from him.